Hi everybody. Today I'm going to talk about a film that I would consider is the best film of this year and probably one of the best films ever made as well. That would be Dune Part 2 with Timothée Chalamet. Just a great film. It has so many things about it that are just that take it to new heights as far as filmmaking. For example, the filmography itself, like the way it looks like an older film. Not older, but a lot of films nowadays use sort of these digital cameras that sort of like make everything look very polished and neat and sort of degrades like the effects of the film. Um, an example of this is maybe a lot of the Marvel films do this. The DC ones are kind of notorious for a lot of this, that they sort of make everything polished and it makes the CG look very unrealistic, not very believable. But in this film, Denis Villeneuve, the director, uses a film technique that sort of keeps everything looking like a film grain, like sort of like an actual film, which makes the CG actually look better. I'm sure that the effects, the polygons, and like the actual quality of the assets, the 3D models that they use are very high, but it makes it actually look better just because it's it's used in such a way that it sort of balances it out. And it an example, I would say that movies have done this before, well, not done has done this before, but sort of like hasn't had amazing CG, but it makes it look better with a sort of film grain. Is for example, Lord of the Rings. You look at let's say the Blu-ray copies of Lord of the Rings, the 1080p ones. The CG looks very very good, and it looks great. It's everything looks very much like it's in the scene, like it's a part of what's going on, and it's CG that's from like 2001 2002, right? I find that with the 4K release of Lord of the Rings, they sort of went back to the film and made it look more polished. So the CG, it doesn't look as well defined as it did in the other versions that had come out prior to the 4K release. That's what I see anyway. So anyway, yeah, it's little things like that that make the film. It's like you can tell that Denis Villeneuve really cares about the world that Frank Herbert made, that he wants it to look as good as it possibly can. And it's not just that, it's the story as well. The story is really fleshed out. I had read the original novel, and in many ways it's actually better than the novel. Like it's actually takes it to new heights that the novel can't really do, because as far as people are concerned, most of the time they say, oh, the novel's better than the book, or it's different from the, I don't know, this is one of the few cases where I have to argue that it's slightly better than the book. And I can say that because some of the liberties that are taken with the story, in which, for example, Chinese character is different from the book, because she sort of supports Paul throughout his whole ordeal as the Lisan al Gaib in the book. And in this, they take a sort of switch where she sort of takes the audience's point of view and sort of is implemented in the film as sort of Paul being this sort of controlling, sort of dictator sort of figure. And it's interesting because things like that, it sort of brings Frank Herbert's idea more in tune with what he actually wanted the story to be. Because when the original novel actually came out, um, Paul's character was seen as sort of this hero figure, even from readers' point of view. And he was never seen as someone who was like sort of a negative character, like sort of a character meant to be shown in a certain way. I'll say this because in Dune Messiah, I'm not going to spoil or anything, but the sort of the idea that is represented in the film Dune Part 2 is sort of implemented more in Frank Herbert's second novel, Dune Messiah. And it's sort of shown, illustrated more. So people were like kind of thrown off back in the day about like the whole they felt kind of like Paul did like a 180 sort of character change, and he sort of changed the character, but that was never his intention. It was always meant for Paul to sort of be this character that's sort of like shifting between two destiny. Well, this destiny to be Lisan and to simply break free of it, and really like it's just illustrated much more efficiently and more in a way that's obvious in this film. And what else can I say about this movie that's just the music? Yes. The music it's some of the best Hans Zimmer soundtrack I ever heard. Hans Zimmer has this sort of feel to his movies that are very like I guess the word would be like very robust, epic sounding, big instruments, things like that. He lately has had this sort of tendency to shift away from traditional orchestral type music, which is like more like akin to John Williams, like Star Wars or other Howard Shore or Lord of the Rings sort of orchestral music, and he sort of makes music that's supposed to fit into the world that it's being shown in, like a sort of way to illustrate the world and to show more that it's part of like in Dune it was like the music feels like you're in a desert, like you're in a world where it's desolate and there's not much there, and it's just a sort of scope that the music sort of hits more of. And I would say this also happened in Blade Runner, which was also a Denis Villeneuve film, and I think Hans Zimmer did the music for that. I'm not entirely sure, but I would say no. You know which one? Interstellar. That's the one I was thinking. Yeah, Interstellar sort of gives this scope of like space and like this sort of mystical sort of element, and Hans Zimmer is doing this a lot with his music, a lot with the pieces that he writes and all this. Yeah, the music just adds to it. The music, the story, and the characters and the acting is just, it's really, really on point. I would say the best character in this entire film, number one, I would argue that it is Timothée Chalamet, because he has really good acting chops and he has a lot of skill in regards to this. He has been in other films that he's sort of shown that he's able to really get into a role. He had this one role, I think it was The King, or it was a film, I think it was like a medieval film. I don't remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, but that film he was really good in. Yeah, he also, what else did he do? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, it's it's just every time he's been in a role, like he really takes it like seriously and he really gets into it. He takes it to a point where you really think the character is real. It's almost like you think it's real, the character. Like that's kind of how you feel when you're watching part 2 of Dune. Like you just feel like you're just watching someone like in front of you. It's just crazy how immersive it gets with the film. Yeah, it's crazy. Chani is a good actress too, though. What's her? Zendaya. Yeah, she's good in the role. I would say she's probably one of the weaker roles in the film, but she's still she's a good actress too. And she adds to the story and she sort of gives depth to the narrative in which it shows sort of the difference between the point of view of all the Fremen versus the one which is Chani, like sort of the audience's sort of point of view. It's sort of supposed to show a shifting point, like it's not really sure which point of view is correct. It's sort of supposed to make you feel like it's hard to sort of differentiate, which is good. Yeah. I'd say I will give this film like a out of 10. I give it like a 9. It's just a great film, and I'm gonna be thinking about it for a while longer. And I'm gonna probably reread the novel. I still have to read Dune Messiah because I haven't read it, but I'm going to do that. And yeah, that's just, yeah. Anyway, this is all I wanted to upload for today. I might upload some music stuff later on, maybe today or tomorrow. I'm trying to do like I'm not kind of uploading sporadically, so it's just kind of like day in, day out. I'm just kind of like I have a lot of other stuff going on and have projects that I'm working on. I'm doing some computer programming stuff as well. So I'm doing some of that work, and yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and it was sort of something you can enjoy. Anyway, bye guys.